This video, and the article that follows, compiles a collection of any documents or files publicly released regarding Jeffrey Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, his associates, and victims. The complete Epstein timeline. Early life and rise. In 1988, Jeffrey Epstein, a former teacher and Bear Stearns employee, founded his financial management firm, J. Epstein & Co. He begins to cultivate a network of wealthy and powerful clients and associates. In 1992, Epstein purchases Little St. James, a 75-acre private island in the U.S. Virgin Islands, which would later be dubbed Pedophile Island by locals and become central to allegations of sexual abuse. In 1996, Virginia Roberts, later Joffrey, alleges she was recruited at age 14 by Ghislaine Maxwell to work for Epstein while she was a locker room attendant at Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago resort in Palm Beach, Florida. First investigation and plea deal. In July of 2002, a profile of Epstein in New York Magazine highlights his enigmatic wealth and powerful connections. In the article, Donald Trump is quoted saying, "I've known Jeff for 15 years. Terrific guy. He's a lot of fun to be with. And he's even said that he likes beautiful women as much as I do, and many of them are on the younger side. No doubt about it, Jeffrey enjoys his social life." In October of 2005, the Palm Beach Police Department begins investigating Epstein after a parent's report that he sexually assaulted their 14-year-old daughter. The investigation quickly identifies dozens of other potential underage victims. In February of 2006, the FBI opens a federal investigation into Epstein for sex trafficking. On October 30th, 2007, a controversial non-prosecution agreement, otherwise known as an NPA, is finalized by the Office of U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of Florida, Alexander Acosta. The secret deal grants federal immunity from prosecution to Epstein and any named or unnamed potential co-conspirators. On June 30th, 2008, under the terms of the NPA, Epstein pleads guilty to 2 state-level prostitution charges in Florida, one involving a minor. He is registered as a sex offender. On July 1st, 2008, he begins a 13-month sentence in Palm Beach County Jail. He is granted a generous work release arrangement, allowing him to leave the jail for up to 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. In July of 2009, Epstein is released from jail after serving 13 months. Civil lawsuits and renewed scrutiny. In 2015, Virginia Joffrey files a civil defamation lawsuit against Ghislaine Maxwell. Depositions and documents from this case would become a crucial source of information years later. In May of 2016, some documents from the Joffrey versus Maxwell lawsuit are unsealed. In a deposition, another accuser, Johanna Schoberg, testified under oath about an incident on Epstein's private plane. She stated that while flying to New York, Epstein suggested they call Trump. The plane was diverted to Atlantic City, and Schoberg testifies that they visited one of Trump's casinos. In November of 2018, the Miami Herald publishes an investigative series called Perversion of Justice, detailing the lenient 2008 plea deal and the secret non-prosecution agreement, bringing the case back into the national spotlight. In February of 2019, a federal judge rules that prosecutors, led by then U.S. Attorney Alexander Acosta, violated the rights of Epstein's victims by keeping the NPA secret from them. Federal arrest, death, and aftermath. On July 6, 2019, Jeffrey Epstein is arrested at Teterboro Airport in New Jersey and taken into federal custody. He is charged by prosecutors in the Southern District of New York with sex trafficking of minors and conspiracy to commit sex trafficking. On July 23, 2019, Epstein is found semi-conscious in his cell at the Metropolitan Correctional Center in Manhattan with injuries to his neck. He is placed on suicide watch, which is later lifted. On August 10, 2019, Epstein is found unresponsive in his cell. The New York City Medical Examiner rules his death as a suicide by hanging. On August 29, 2019, the criminal charges against Epstein are officially dismissed due to his death, though prosecutors vow to pursue any co-conspirators. On July 2, 2020, Ghislaine Maxwell was arrested by the FBI in New Hampshire and charged with multiple federal crimes related to trafficking and abusing minors for Epstein. On December 29, 2021, a jury finds Ghislaine Maxwell guilty on 5 of 6 counts, including sex trafficking of a minor. On June 28, 2022, Ghislaine Maxwell is sentenced to 20 years in federal prison. In January of 2024, a federal judge orders the unsealing of hundreds of documents from the 2015 Joffrey versus Maxwell lawsuit. The documents mention numerous prominent individuals, including Donald Trump. His name appears in contexts such as flight logs for Epstein's private jet and in deposition testimony referencing his social acquaintance with Epstein, primarily at Mar-a-Lago and Atlantic City. Now, we will go over all of the publicly released documents and or files related to Jeffrey Epstein. The Unredacted Black Book. This book first came to the attention of law enforcement in 2009. Alfredo Rodriguez, who worked as a butler at Epstein's Palm Beach house from late 2004 to early 2005, attempted to sell the book to a lawyer representing Epstein's victims. The lawyer notified the FBI, which then acquired the 97-page book in a sting operation. While used in legal proceedings, the book's contents became more widely known when a redacted version was published by Gawker in 2015. Since then, different versions, including unredacted ones, have been released through various court proceedings and online leaks. Most recently, a version of the book was formally released by the U.S. government as part of a declassification of files related to the Epstein case. People involved were Tony Blair, Michael Bloomberg, Prince Andrew, Rupert Murdoch, Donald Trump, and many others. Places involved were New York, London, Paris, 9 East 71st Street, New York, New York, and 358 El Brillo Way, Palm Beach, Florida. The 2016 Maxwell deposition. This is the deposition of Ghislaine Maxwell in the matter of Virginia Giuffre versus Ghislaine Maxwell in the U.S. District Court for the Southern District of New York. People involved were Ghislaine Maxwell, Virginia L. Giuffre, Jeffrey Epstein, Sigrid McCauley, Meredith Schultz, Emma Rosen, Brad Edwards, Paul G. Cassell, Jeffrey S. Pagluka, Laura A. Menninger, James Christie, Leslie Fagan, Nadia Marcinkova, and Nadia Bjorlin. The Katie Johnson California lawsuit. Katie Johnson filed a federal lawsuit in 2016 alleging that Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein sexually assaulted her when she was a minor in 1994. The case was dismissed or withdrawn, and her credibility was heavily questioned following the lawsuit. The 2016 Virginia Giuffre deposition. This document is the transcript of a videotaped deposition from May 3, 2016, where Virginia Giuffre is questioned under oath by Ghislaine Maxwell's attorneys regarding her allegations, past statements, and personal history. The people involved with this document are Virginia Giuffre, Ghislaine Maxwell, Jeffrey Epstein, Brad Edwards, Sigrid S. McCauley, Laura A. Menninger, Jeffrey Pagluka, Alan Dershowitz, Prince Andrew, Bill Clinton, Bill Richardson, George Mitchell, Glenn Dubin, Jean-Luc Brunel, Marvin Minsky, Tom Pritzker, Sharon Churcher, Tony Figueroa, James Michael Ostritz, Juan Alessi, Maria Alessi, Saren Kellen, Emmy Taylor, Dr. Judith Lightfoot, Dr. Olson, Dr. Donahue, and Naomi Campbell. The 2016 Johanna Schoberg deposition. This document is a deposition from May 18, 2016, in which Johanna Schoberg testifies about a photo taken with Prince Andrew and Ghislaine Maxwell's alleged request for her to provide sexual services and recruit other girls for Jeffrey Epstein. The people involved were Johanna Schoberg, Virginia L. Giuffre, Ghislaine Maxwell, Jeffrey Epstein, Prince Andrew, Emmy, Nadia, Florencia, and Kelly Ann Willis. The Katie Johnson deposition. On February 11, 2016, Katie Johnson committed to a full video deposition, which is available publicly on the internet. The 2019 federal indictment. This document is a 2019 indictment from the Southern District of New York charging Jeffrey Epstein with sex trafficking and conspiracy to commit sex trafficking. The indictment alleges that from at least 2002 through 2005, Epstein sexually exploited and abused dozens of minor girls, some as young as 14, at his homes in Manhattan, New York, and Palm Beach, Florida. It details a scheme where Epstein and co-conspirators, including employees, recruited and enticed underage girls to engage in sexual acts with him, in exchange for hundreds of dollars in cash payments. The document further states that Epstein encouraged his victims to recruit other minors, paying both the original victim and the new girl, thereby creating a vast network of victims. The charges include specific overt acts such as employees scheduling appointments with minor victims, and a forfeiture allegation seeking Epstein's Manhattan residence. The people involved were Jeffrey Epstein and Jeffrey S. Berman. Jeffrey Epstein's flight logs. This document contains 118 pages of pilot logs for aircraft associated with Jeffrey Epstein, including the Boeing 727 and Gulfstream jets. The logs, primarily authored by pilot David Rogers, cover a period from 1991 to early 2003. They were entered as Government Exhibit 662-RR and the federal case USA v. Ghislaine Maxwell. The logs meticulously recorded flight dates, points of departure and arrival, and often list the names of passengers in the remarked column, providing a partial record of who traveled with Epstein and his associates over the years. People involved were Jeffrey Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, Donald Trump, Prince Andrew, Bill Clinton, Kevin Spacey, Alan Dershowitz, Senator George Mitchell, Itzhak Perlman, and Eva Anderson Dubin. Giuffre v. Maxwell unsealed documents. This document is a combination of legal filings from the United States District Court, Southern District of New York, and the case of Virginia L. Giuffre v. Ghislaine Maxwell. The filings, dated January 3, 2024, are part of a rolling release of documents ordered to be unsealed by the court. The contents include plaintiff's motion to compel defendant to answer deposition questions regarding her knowledge of and participation in sexual activities with Jeffrey Epstein and other females, It also contains excerpts from Ghislaine Maxwell's confidential videotaped deposition from April 22, 2016, where she is questioned about her relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, her knowledge of his sexual activities, and her involvement in recruiting young women. Other exhibits include depositions from household staff and other individuals connected to the case, shedding light on the inner workings of Epstein's network. People involved were Virginia L. Joffrey, Ghislaine Maxwell, Jeffrey Epstein, Prince Andrew, Alan Dershowitz, Johanna Schoberg, Emmy Taylor, Sarah Kellen, Nadia Marcinkova, Jean-Luc Brunel, Alfredo Rodriguez, Juan Alessi, and Bill Clinton. FBI Phase 1. The FBI's Phase 1 release of the Epstein files occurred on February 27, 2025, and included previously leaked documents related to Jeffrey Epstein's criminal activities, such as evidence lists and flight logs. This release aimed to provide transparency regarding Epstein's extensive network in the exploitation of underage girls. The Birthday Book. This collection of personal notes penned for Jeffrey Epstein's 50th birthday offers a portrait of the convicted child sex offender through crude drawings, images, and messages filled with sexual content or innuendo. The Oversight Emails. Oversight Democrats and Ranking Member Robert Garcia released never-before-seen emails from the latest production of Jeffrey Epstein's estate, striking a blow against the White House's Epstein cover-up. In private correspondence with Ghislaine Maxwell, Jeffrey Epstein wrote in 2011 that Donald Trump, quote, spent hours at my house, end quote, with a victim of sex trafficking, referring to Trump as, quote, dog that hasn't barked. In a separate email with author Michael Wolff in 2019, Epstein stated explicitly that Donald Trump, quote, knew about the girls as he asked Ghislaine to stop. In another email with Wolff in 2015, Epstein and Wolff discussed if they can, quote, craft an answer for Trump's upcoming CNN interview, with Wolff characterizing Epstein's leverage over Donald Trump saying, quote, if he says he hasn't been on the plane or to the house, then that gives you a valuable PR and political currency. The Epstein estate released a total of 23,000 documents that the Oversight Committee is currently reviewing. People involved were Jeffrey Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, and current President Donald Trump. Aside from being accessible online, all of these documents can be read at the link below. That is, of course, unless you are watching this on YouTube, which doesn't allow me to post links into the description box. In that case, you'll have to head to the OP News website directly, where all of these documents can be read and or downloaded.